I'm Valerie, and I have Parkinson's disease. I'm 38 years old. I live in Arizona. I'm originally from Massachusetts. Thank you for coming to my channel. Stress. You're a young mom. You're busy, stressed out. You have a baby. Babies cause muscle pain. Holding babies cause pain. You're wearing the wrong shoes. I'm wearing sneakers. Your pants are too tight. Loosen your pants. You know, this is psychosomatic. Jump up and down. If you can jump up and down, you're okay. Have somebody massage that for you. Nothing's wrong with you. You're fine. You're healthy. You have anxiety. Are you depressed? She could be bulimic. These are a few comments and words and quotes that doctors have said to me since I was 29 years old. I am now 38 years old. I have gone, since I was 29, through numerous doctors. I can't even count them on my hands how many doctors I have seen, how many specialists I have seen. And every single one looked at me and just said, I don't know what's wrong with you. I had a doctor say, I don't know what's wrong with you, but maybe down the road something will show up. Doctors don't know everything. Those amount of years cause stress. Those years were the worst years of my life. When you don't know something, when you don't have an answer for something, that is probably the worst. I knew what was happening to my body. I knew something wasn't right. You have support around you, but you don't. You have people that listen, but they don't really listen. This wasn't in my head. This isn't in your head. If you feel something, your body is telling you something. It's that simple. Here are some symptoms that I have experienced since I was 29 years old. Numbness, weakness, tingling, paralysis, headaches, couldn't swallow, pain behind my head, pain in my eyes, spasms, hip pain, stiffness, loss of balance, heart palpitation, jaw pain, facial pain, jumping nerves, jumping muscles in my legs and my arms, trouble walking. These are symptoms I've gone through that I went to doctors for. They couldn't give me answers. I had a very hard time trying to get an answer, and no doctor could figure it out. They were very stuck in their ways. It took me looking at my own medical records, seeing things I did not ever want to see, of what a doctor said, not to me, but said in my records about me possibly being bulimic, that this was a psychosomatic episode. To stay strong through things like that, so hard. But I kept within myself. I kept true to myself. And I refused to let anybody tell me what I was feeling. I never went to a therapist. I refused to go to a therapist for what I was experiencing. And if I did go to a therapist, they would have said this is not psychosomatic. I ended up being diagnosed through me pushing for years through tests and tests and tests. I was diagnosed with Lyme disease. I was from Massachusetts. Lyme is all over the place. Lyme is everywhere. I had a test done over and over. They kept saying everything was fine, that Lyme, there's no Lyme. Those tests aren't accurate. If you're out there and you're experiencing any symptoms that I've mentioned in this video, you need to have a different test. The doctor's tests are not sensitive enough. The doctor's tests do not pick up Lyme disease. You're going to have an ELISA test at those doctors. They're not good enough. The Western blot is not good enough. Don't just take a doctor's word for it. My doctor called me and said, your test came out negative for Lyme. This is after telling them that I was bit by a tick, that I had a tick on me. And they said it was negative. I picked up my medical records. I have all my medical records. I always kept those. I picked it up. And there was one thing on there that always showed up in my blood work, was my IgG antibodies were high. But nobody ever said why. They said, well, you probably came in contact with something in the past, and that's why. But they never said what it was. They said, well, we would have no idea what you would come in contact with. That to me was a red flag. That stood out to me. It didn't stand out to my doctors that went to medical school for 8 years. That stood out to me. There's a reason for that. So on the grace of a great friend that recommended I had a Lyme test through IGeneX in California. IGENEX, IGeneX from California. Paid out of pocket to have this test because I knew I had Lyme disease. I had the blood work taken, sent in. It came back, I had 7 strands of Lyme disease. 7 strands of it. I was CDC positive for Lyme. I can guarantee there are so many people out there right now that said they didn't have Lyme. The doctors, they did all their tests. They're not enough. I highly recommend this test. I was given a PICC line. I had a PICC line put in my arm that leads to your heart. And I had IV antibiotics pumped into me every day for 3 months. This was crucial because this was just at 38 years old or 37 years old of being diagnosed with Lyme disease after I complained of symptoms 8 years prior. I have gone years with Lyme in my system. Lyme that's gone neurological. Lyme that's done damage. Permanent damage. I'm thankful for the antibiotics. They help me in more ways than I can imagine. But what happened in the process of being diagnosed with Lyme disease, at the same time, my left arm stopped moving when I walked. I don't have a swing in my left arm. It hangs. My handwriting kept getting worse and cramped. Still had difficulty swallowing. Couldn't get my words out. My legs would go out on me. Something still wasn't right. I made an appointment with another neurologist. After all the neurologists I've already seen, I made another appointment. And he's one that I saw a couple years prior, which stated I had possible MS, which a lot of you out there probably have heard multiple sclerosis many times if you've had symptoms similar to what I've explained. So I went to him again. He had me walk. He looked at my gait, my arm not swaying, my balance, tremors. I forgot to mention tremors. I had really bad tremors. That brought me to the neurologist. That was actually one of my biggest symptoms, which completely forgot now. And he said, I think you have Parkinson's disease. But he wanted to do another test. He wanted to do a DAT scan, D-A-T scan, S-C-A-N, DAT scan. And he said, just to confirm what my thoughts are, which a DAT scan confirms a clinical diagnosis of a neurologist. I looked at him and I said, how much do you think, what are your odds that I have Parkinson's disease? I'm 38 or 37 at the time. And he goes, from what I'm seeing, it is looking as though it's Parkinson's disease. He wouldn't give the final diagnosis till I had a DAT scan, but I needed another opinion also. So because I had Lyme disease, I wanted to make sure that this wouldn't be just Lyme. Either this was damaged, caused from Lyme, or this was mimicking Parkinson's disease. My Lyme was mimicking Parkinson's. I wanted to be sure. I wanted to be sure before I was put on medication. So I made an appointment with an amazing center, the Muhammad Ali Center in Phoenix, Arizona. I see Dr. Lieberman. He's the director of the center. I had an appointment there, and I saw his assistant doctor. And she ran the tests. She did all the tests. She did the all those type stuff that you look and walk and all that good stuff. And she brought all my information, some old brain MRIs to Dr. Lieberman. And he came in and he thought, okay, it could be two things. This could be a over amount of copper in your system, which is called Wilson's disease. He said it's highly unlikely you have Wilson's disease, but because of the symptoms, it can mimic Parkinson's. So I need to be sure. So I had to do some tests with that. It's just a P test, like a 24-hour P test, and it tells you if you have Wilson's or not. And he said, secondly, it could very well be Parkinson's disease. And he wanted to be sure. So he said, to diagnose Parkinson's, I need you to have a DAT scan. My age, it makes it difficult for neurologists, even a director of a center, to diagnose without something to back them up. Like, they know, they have that clinical diagnosis, but they have to be careful. They have to be sure. And it's better for a doctor to be sure than not sure. And then you always have questions in your head. And with me, and with some of you out there, if any of you experience the same thing, having Lyme disease, you can have the same symptoms as Parkinson's, but you don't have Parkinson's. So you have to be sure. So I had a hard time going through this in my brain. If I wanted this DAT scan or not, they do put a very, very minimal amount of radiation. They inject in you to glow the chemicals of dopamine, etc. in your brain. So I had a hard time with this. I was very nervous about this, but I decided this is the only way that I am going to be 100% sure that something is going on here. So I did have that test done. It's very simple. It's not a bad test at all. You have to just drink a liquid to block your thyroid so your thyroid doesn't have any damage. And after about a half hour or so, They do the injection of the radiation injection before the scan, and then they have you leave. They have you go out and do whatever you want to do for a few hours, and then you come back for your scan. The scan was like 30 minutes. It was so simple. It was nothing to it. I just laid there and a thing went around my head. It wasn't even a tunnel like an MRI, just your head in there. No big deal. And the radiologist people said if I wanted my CD. And I don't know if it was something by the look of them or something that kind of made me feel like they knew something, but of course they can't say anything, your doctor has to. But they said, once you see the CD, you can look online and you'll know right away. So I said, okay, yeah, absolutely, I want my CD, which I would have asked for anyway. I keep all my medical records, which I highly suggest. And after waiting a bit, I got my CD and I went home. And I already did a little bit of research on Parkinson's and what the scans would show after I already had my appointment scheduled for the DAT scan. I wanted to see what those scans would look like so I could see on my own if I did have my CD. And so I already knew what it would look like. So I popped in that CD, and sure enough, it didn't look right. It didn't look normal. One side, I have tremors that are really bad on my right hand, and my left hand doesn't swing, so it's affected both sides. But one side clearly on the scan was much more depleted of dopamine. So my body pretty much is not producing dopamine in a normal way. So yeah, I pretty much knew. The next morning, I got a call at 7 a.m, which I knew they usually don't call you, especially after having 8 years of doctor's tests. I never got that call. And I knew already. I already grieved it. I already went through it that day with my family. My husband came home very quickly. I already knew before the doctors told me. Talked to my sisters, my parents. It was very difficult because it was a relief, and it was so scary. It was very bittersweet. So the next morning at 7 a.m, Dr. Lieberman's assistant doctor, Dr. Tran, she called me and she said, the DAT scan results are back and it looks as though you have Parkinson's. So I knew it. I already knew. I wasn't shocked when she told this to me on the phone. So she stated to keep moving, do some exercises, yoga, and in a month that I would have an appointment to see them to discuss treatment. So I went there in a month, and make a long story short, Dr. Lieberman did some more tests on me, and he decided to put me on meds. I was having a very difficult time with my balance. The balance was the scariest because that could be the most dangerous. I was getting pulled back, not by anybody, just my body was just going backwards. My body was going to the side. So we were put on medication. I am on, I think it's pronounced Selegiline, Selegiline. Let's see, I have 5 milligrams, which is the maximum milligrams for that medication, 2 times a day. So I take it in the morning, and then I take it around dinner time. And it helps control my tremors. It helps control my body. My speech has gotten much better. My balance is 100% back. And my tremors aren't completely away, but it's really helped. It takes about 4 weeks for the medication to kick in. But it's helped tremendously for me. I actually see Dr. Lieberman again in September. This whole process has been such a long process. And I know people are out there that have gone through these processes, that have gone through all these tests, all these years. I wanted to make this first video of the frustration I have with doctors that I'm sure other people have extreme amount of frustration with, is that you're not getting answers and people are looking at you like you're nuts. People are not giving you what you need to hear because you know something's not right. But instead of a doctor saying, We're going to follow up in a month. We're going to follow up again in 2 months. Something's not right here. Instead of them saying that, they just say, you need to see a psychologist. You are stressed out. You have kids. You're busy. I would look at doctors and say, I'm not stressed. I don't have any stress right now. I'm not even working right now. I'm not feeling that way. But they continue to put it in your head that you're stressed. I even had a doctor, I was told numerous times I had MS. There was an MS center in Boston, Massachusetts I went to have a specialist look at me that specialized in MS. The first thing this woman did when she walked in the room, before she even said hello, she opened the door, looked at me, and said, you know this is all psychosomatic. Before she even greeted me. She started tests on me, physical, neurological tests, while I'm sitting on the bed. And this is how I'm sitting. And as she's like doing some tests on my feet, and she looks up at me and she says, why do you have so much anxiety right now? And I don't listen to this. Please don't listen to the nonsense. Everybody has anxiety. Everybody has stress in their life. You know your body. Listen to it. Be aware of it. It's your life. It's your health. I kept pressing on. After 8 years, I knew something wasn't right. And my body was telling me 8 years prior. And it was something in my system that nobody even bothered to go further with or to take me seriously with. Until I came to Arizona, I saw so many doctors in Massachusetts, it's unreal, and nobody listened to me. I never heard when I was in Arizona that I'm just all stressed out and depressed, and I never heard that here. One time I did have a doctor. I went to the emergency room because I had such excruciating head pain. Lyme can cause so many horrible pain in your body, so much horrible pain. And I was having excruciating, like stabbing pain in my eye and my head. I was bawling my eyes out. I was crying. I was in so much pain. I was in the emergency room. This doctor looked at me as I'm bawling my eyes out in pain. I never even got a Tylenol, by the way. I never even got a Tylenol. Looked at me and asked if my eyes were always so bloodshot. As I'm bawling, I said, because I'm crying. They look at you like either you're a drug addict, you're looking for drugs, you're stressed, you're depressed. It's so frustrating. My muscles were twitching. My legs were spasming. And I kept telling her, it's happening right now. Like, feel this. And she looked at me and said, that's caused by stress. Those spasms are caused by stress. Don't listen to it. Don't. Move on to another doctor if you need to. Move on to somebody else that will listen to you, that will really listen to you. Because there's people out there that will. And there's people like me and you that can support one another and can tell each other's stories, that we can share and educate each other. Because you need to be educated. You need to have some power. Because it's your body and it's your life. I hope you got something out of this video. I will be doing a series on my progress, my process in my Parkinson's disease, and I hope you're able to get something out of it. Follow me down below, subscribe to me. I will be keep putting up videos on my life with Parkinson's disease. So I hope you enjoyed, and be well, everybody. Take care. Bye.